What is up, guys? It is me, Real American Politics, back in with a new video. And today we are looking up north. I know, I'm sorry. I am not a Canadian before people riot or something like that. I am here just wanting to predict the Canadian election because of one party and the collapse of another party that's happening as we speak. That's the only reason that I'm even predicting this race. Now, before I forget, this is not going to be a modeled anything. This is just looking at the polling results, kind of like the 338 of Canada, what they're saying, and kind of just looking at trends of things, and yes. So that's a disclaimer. Now, before we get into the prediction and the analysis of the election, hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's not an American politics video, but I know this is a big issue with the PPC gaining significant ground. So before we start today's video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit the little bell, and yes, thank you guys for allowing me to do a Canadian prediction. So, before we get into the predictions, we have to take a look at the 2019 results. And already you could tell the popular vote people are going to fall silent into the night about this result. The fact that the Conservatives got 34.3% of the vote, yet they didn't get a plurality of the seats, it shuts some people up about the popular vote garbage for about 5 minutes. I mean, the popular vote does not matter in Canada, but it even shows you that even in Canadian land, they don't have this nonsense of the popular vote matters. It doesn't matter. Popular vote doesn't matter even in Canadian land. And you look at the seat change. Conservatives gain significant ground, 26 seats or so. Liberals lost around 20. Black Quebec gained around 22. And the New Democrats actually lost 15 seats. And that was before what they said recently, so we just gotta see on that front. But there's one party that should have everybody's interest in. The People's Party of Canada. This is the Chad Party, alright? The Conservative Party in Canada makes Mitt Romney look like this right-wing nationalist. The Conservatives in Canada, they're not conservative, alright? This is a fake name, bullshit name, get rid of it. The real Conservatives and the real Chads are the People Parties, the People's Party of Canada. These are the real deal, led by Maxime Bernier. I think that's how you say it. It's a weird name. I know, these Canadian names, folks. Sorry to Canadians, but just try to pronounce some of these names. Like, I'm not even going to try the Quebec leader name. But in a nutshell, Maxime is a Chad, alright? He wants immigration restrictionism. So does the whole party. And it is just Chad group. And it lost a seat, but this was a new party. And for a new party, they did pretty good. 1.5%. For a new party in a system like Canada, that is huge. Just to gain 1% is huge, let alone 1.5%. And yes, Bernier lost, but Bernier lost, but he's going to run this year, and he's probably going to win. Let's be real here. But in a nutshell, the People's Party of Canada, very quiet in 2019, but still did pretty good considering it's a new party, and you had the quote-unquote Conservatives suck up a good chunk of the vote. Now, you look at the polling now, and you notice something interesting. Look at the PPC. Just look at them. Look at the purple line. They're nearing 10% in most polls. They're above above the Greens, that's not a surprise, but being above the Quebec Party, it's pretty big. And again, I know Quebec is only located in Quebec, but the fact that the People's Party of Canada, a brand new party, is polling in at almost 10% just in their second election ever, that's huge in a parliamentary system like Canada. This is massive. You're not supposed to see a party like this gain 10% of the vote in 5 seconds. unless it's like a major party split into two. But in this case, it didn't happen. What happened, though, was a CPC picked a left-wing progressive as their leader. I hate that guy so much. I hate O'Toole so much. I call him a tool for a reason. That guy just sucks. I mean, really? Center right. That's what we got. Center right. And look at the picture. It's freaking of George Bush. That's enough said about the conservatives in Canadian land. I mean, O'Toole is a literal tool, but you get the point. And you notice that for a while, the CPC was actually expected to possibly gain a plurality of seats. Well, that collapsed quickly. At the same time, PPC spiked in the poll. Now, the reason for this is simple. The vaccine stuff, the mandates, all of that. That is helping the People's Party of Canada. The vaccine mandates. They are the one party that is fighting tooth and nail against the mandates. And this is why you're seeing a lot of these Canadians, these right-wing Canadians, move away from the CPC and decide to vote against the People's Party of Canada to wake up the CPC, be like, hey, we want actual conservatives, not this liberal progressive bullshit. And you notice, if the People's Party of Canada wasn't in this race, CPC could be beating the Liberal Party of Canada by upwards of 10 percentage points, like they were for a couple polls here and there in early September. But nope, they blew it. They absolutely blew it. They had a horrifyingly bad debate. And the LPC really just is stagnating. The New Democratic Party, it's left-wing of LPC. It's absurd on the vaccine mandates. And that's why, again, they're not gaining significant ground in the poll. Now, compared to 2019, they're doing around 5 points better. But you get the point that, in a nutshell, People's Party of Canada is closing in on 10% of the vote, while CPC is fighting for dear life just to get a plurality of the vote. Now, what is my somewhat prediction for things? Now, we look at Canadian land, okay? You look at these results, and there is a lot of red, especially in the Toronto area. There's a lot of blue in the Alberta area. Now, you can probably guess where the actual conservatives lie. They're in Alberta. They're not in frickin' Toronto. They're not in the Ottawa area. They're in rural Alberta, right? That's where the conservative base really is. That's why you had Calgary vote nearly entirely for the conservatives. Actually, entirely. Edmonton was almost. And a lot of these more rural cities, that's an oxymoron, I know, but voted for the Conservative Party because these are more right-wing, socially conservative type of voters. And you notice that the LPC is mostly centered in Toronto, inner city of Montreal, and a lot of these more eastern parts of Canada. That's where their base is. And a lot of these places, they were tight. Especially in places like the Vancouver area, there was a couple of districts that were within like a point. Same thing in the Toronto metro area. Even parts of the Montreal area. It was tight races. Now, with the collapse of the Green Party, that's going to help the LPC a little bit. But at the same time, the rise of the New Democratic Party is probably going to screw over the LPC in a couple of these districts, especially these more rural districts that still vote for the Liberal Party. These districts up here voted I think 2% for the LPC over the Conservative Party. So yeah, before we get to the final seat projection, this is my current popular vote projection. I have the CPC and LPC roughly tied in the popular vote. Both of them are going to drop around 2-3 percentage points compared to 2019. NDP, 19% of the vote, up from around 16% of the vote. They would be higher if they didn't go full on gun-ho on the vaccine mandates. They would probably be pulling at 25%. That's not a joke, but that killed them. The leaders saying, we're going to force vaccines on people. That guy's a nut job, by the way. But you get the point that the NDP will gain significant ground, mostly from Green Party voters who left because that party just imploded upon itself. The PPC, I project, will gain around 7% of the vote, up from 1.5%. That is a huge jump for a new party in a parliamentary system like Canada. The Quebec Party loses a little bit of ground, but still, they're going to just absorb all of Quebec, essentially. And Green Parties, they're going to gain, like, 1 seat in Victoria and 1 in, I think, over by the Vancouver area. That's all they got. They're not really relevant anymore. The Green Party voters mostly went to the new NDP, and you get the point. But this is my final projection. This is what I think the seats will look like. So the Conservatives will have around 131 seats, Liberals have 151, and I have the PPC gaining the single competitive district they're in, where Barramier is in. Barramier. Now, the reason the PPC doesn't gain more is simple. Their vote is outside of, like, 2 districts, or ridings, whatever you want to call them. They're ridings, by the way. It's evenly split throughout Canada. It's like 7, 8, 9, 10%. Nearly identical in every single riding. Except for, like, 2. Like, a place like Alberta, it's probably like 15, 16%. But rest of Canada, like 10%. It's evenly split. That's why it's not going to gain many more seats. So, Liberals lose 4 seats. Conservatives gain around 12-ish. The Quebecs lose a couple, like 5. NDP only gains around 4 or 5. Or 3, I should say. They really should be gaining more, but I think they blew it big time with the vaccine stuff. And I have, most notably, Conservatives gaining mostly in the metro area of Toronto and a little bit of Quebec. But that's roughly it. There's really nothing to say about the Canadian election other than this. If you live in Canada, get out and vote for the PPC. Even if you're left-wing, they're actually fighting for individual liberties, civil rights, and just basic human rights. So get out and vote if you're in Canada. Vote for the PPC in your riding. Yes, I've been calling it districts. Sorry, I'm used to American elections. But overall, this is my final prediction. Liberals will have a minority government by around 20 seats, smaller than it was, but still, it's just a nightmare. So yes, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit the little bell, and yes. Reminder, get out and vote if you're in Canada. Thank you guys for watching.